fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the Jungle Mission 3-pack from the Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee line from Hasbro. So since this is Buzzworthy Bumblebee, it is Target exclusive, and this is basically just a 3-pack of 3 of the deluxe figures from the main line for Rise of the Beasts. So they're just kind of put in this 3-pack. I believe they are going to be available singly later on, so you should be able to find them singly later on if you don't want all of them. But if you're like me and you're excited and you just can't wait, these 3-packs have been showing up at Target. We get Cheetor, Nightbird, and Wheeljack, and I definitely wanted these two. I was kind of iffy on the Cheetor, but I've heard good things, so we'll see how it goes. And we have the kind of standard Buzzworthy Bumblebee packaging here with Optimus and Megatron and Bumblebee over here on the side. I just think it's kind of funny how this line has really nothing to do with Bumblebee, but it's just what they decided to call the Target exclusive line. I don't know. But you have nice pictures of Cheetor, Nightbird, and Wheeljack down here on the bottom. And then you have the 3 of them up here on the top as well. Over here on this side, just have a big picture of Bumblebee. Over here, you just kind of have the wraparound of the pictures from the front. RC's peeking out down here on the bottom. Spin it around to the back, and we just get nice product shots for the robot mode and alt mode for all 3. So I'm excited for these. I'm going to go ahead and get them out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. Alright, up first we have Cheetor. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the Kingdom mold readily available to do a direct comparison, but as far as I can tell, this might be almost a completely new sculpt. I really don't notice a lot of engineering taken from the Kingdom mold. I think this is all new, and honestly, I think it's better. I think this is a really nice mold. I think it beats the Kingdom one by far. I will say the color scheme is pretty good. There is a little bit of this brown, like copperish brown going on that I think is a little weird with what we know about Cheetor, but maybe that's more realistic to what he looks like in the movie, so maybe they're going for kind of a more movie-realistic color scheme. Honestly, I don't hate it. I really thought I would, but it has grown on me. I think it works. Of course, you have the really nice pops of metallic blue throughout. We'll take a look at the head sculpt here. The metallic blue on the head looks absolutely phenomenal, and just all that sculpting I think looks really cool. Very stylized Cheetor head sculpt, certainly not what we're used to with Beast Wars, but I like it a lot. And I think the kind of yellowish green eyes look really nice. You have a Maximal symbol here on the top of the Cheetah head. The Cheetah head itself looks really nice. We'll see that some more in the alt mode. And then down here you have this kind of cohesive chest plate. If you remember, the Kingdom mold had those 2 panels that kind of came in from the side, and the Cheetah kind of formed most of the head. I like this better. I mean, it's a nice cohesive piece here. Some nice detailing. You got some Cheetah spots on the sides as well. And just overall, I think that looks really good. You have some metallic blue here on the forearms and on the thighs. And then, like I said before, you have this copperish brown color here pretty much for the entire legs from the knee down, except for a little bit of yellow down here. But overall, I think it looks really good. I like it a lot. You still have the Cheetah legs here on the back, but I don't think they're really in the way. You can kind of bend the Cheetah legs back here to kind of tuck them back as much as possible. You can move them around, so if for some reason you like them straight down or something like that, you have the options. But I like to kind of tuck them back in as far as possible. For whatever reason, it seems like this one is supposed to come in a little bit further, but I just can't get it to go, and I don't want to snap it off or anything. It's perfectly fine the way it is. It just seems like this one can come a little bit further back than this one, and I don't know if that's just a QC thing or if that's how it was meant to be. But again, it's perfectly fine. All in all, I think he looks really, really good. Articulation-wise, the head's on a ball joint. You can go really far back. Can't really come all that far forward, just kind of, you know, the natural pose. Certainly look side to side, no problem, but you can't really tilt side to side. You have a ball joint here in the shoulder, so you can go about that far out to the side. Of course, you can move that all around. You have a mushroom peg swivel there in the bicep. You have 90 degrees in the elbow. And then you have this ball joint here for the wrist. So you can kind of bring this out if you want and move it all around. But if you just kind of keep it in the normal orientation, you can just get a swivel side to side with it. You do have a waist swivel here. You have a ball joint in the hip. Kick out about that far, not super far, but you can kick pretty far forward. Can't really go back at all because of this kind of butt skirt that he's got going on here. Then you have a mushroom peg swivel here right above the knee. 90 degrees in the knee, and then you do have a ball joint down here. You have, actually I guess it's not a ball joint, I apologize. It is a swivel, and it is a mushroom peg swivel there. So you do have ankle tilt, it's just not a ball joint as I previously thought. But yeah, overall, I think he looks really good. I actually like this a lot, and I think it's superior to the Kingdom mold in my opinion. I really do like the look of it. Also, he comes with 2 accessories. So he does have a gun, as you can see here, we'll go ahead and pop this into his hand. That's something the Kingdom mold did not have. But he does still have the tail sword, but instead of kind of holding it down here and it just kind of being like a weird club, the tail actually flips around and reveals a blade, which he can then hold over here, and that way he's got a sword and a gun. So I like that a lot. I think the accessories are really cool. They both store in the alt mode, which we'll take a look at, but I really appreciate that as well. Just overall, this is a really solid mold, and I don't know why we didn't get this as the Kingdom mold, because I think it's better. Now, yes, it is a little bit more stylized to, I assume, how he'll appear in the movie. Not really, you know, geared toward how he appeared on the cartoon. But I really like it a lot. I like it a lot more than I thought I was going to. Originally, I was hesitant to buy the 3-pack because I really just wanted the other two. But I'm glad I got the 3-pack because I might have missed out on a really solid Cheetor figure here. He's just really, really good. So let's go ahead, let's get into his transformation. Okay, so before we get into the transformation, I just wanted to point out something real quick. He's got these little like collarbone pieces up here that I think I had mistransformed previously. They don't really move all that far. They really just kind of swivel out like that. I don't even know why they're really necessary. It's a very minuscule little swivel in, but this is how they should be for the robot mode, and then you can go ahead and swivel them back out to the side for the Cheetah mode, just to kind of fill in that gap a little bit. Honestly, you could leave them like this the whole time. It doesn't really change much, but technically they are supposed to be swiveled in a little bit. So we're going to come down here to the legs, and you can see that there's kind of a little seam right here, and you can kind of grab a hold of the foot, maybe just put your nail in here, and this is going to swing back, and then we can go ahead and swing these around, revealing the Cheetah foot. And then this closes back up, so that hides up the robot foot and brings out the Cheetah leg. We're going to do the same over here on this side. Bring this up, swivel around, close that back up. Then we're going to spin 180 degrees at the thigh swivel, just like that. And then we can just kind of leave them like that for now. So again, if you don't have those pieces, you can go ahead and push them up now. We're going to spin the head around 180 degrees. And then what we have to do is kind of bring this a little forward, so that'll help you unpeg the chest plate here, which can be a little difficult. It helps if you can kind of get your nails in here to kind of pop this piece out, but it is a little difficult, honestly. You can see it's kind of right here that you need to get the nail in and unpeg this, and it is kind of difficult. You can kind of use the Cheetah head a little bit to help, but you just have to kind of get your nails in here and pop this out. There we go, I got the one side. Once you get one side, it's a little bit easier to get the other, but just gotta pop this out of here. Come on. There we go. So you can see that there are these two large pegs that were pegged in right here and here. So you just kind of have to get that out of there. And then you can kind of bring this down on the hinge, and then this will also kind of pop out. And you want to get this over the robot head, so make sure you get this all the way up so that you can bring this in and close that over top like so. Now you can see that there's this large peg hole in the center here. We're going to take the gun and we're going to fold this in half, and then we are going to peg this in here for storage, and that will just pop in right there like that. Then we are going to bring the arms in like this, and you can see that they have this little tab here on the side of the forearm, and those are going to tab into these little spots here on the waist. So you'll have to rotate that at the bicep and then bring this in and peg it in here. And it can be a little difficult. It doesn't always want to stay in because it's kind of at a weird angle, but you want to get this in here and peg that in, and you have to make sure that this stays in all the way, because when we bring this down, those two pegs that were pegged in down here have to go on the outside of the arms. So just make sure that these are all the way in, as much as you can get them in. And then bring this down and peg this in here like so. So bring that in, keep this tucked in as tight as you can, and then we can bring this piece down, and this will kind of come down, and like I said, that has to fit over the arms, and then you can bring this in, and that kind of tucks everything in there nicely like so. We're going to then bring down the Cheetah arms, or front legs, I guess I should say. Bring these down like so. At this point, you're going to kind of spread the legs apart, and we're going to take the tail, and we are going to flip the end of the tail over the blade like so, and then this is going to peg into this space right here. And you can kind of see this little tab right there, which is going to go in that little notch right there. So you kind of have to bring this up and slide it over like that. But then you can also see how the tail kind of has like a groove for the part of the leg to fit into. You can see it right here. So you bring this up, this clips on like so, and then you just kind of straighten the legs. And there you go. We have Cheetor in cheetah mode. So I think this actually looks really good. I mean, yes, you do see the robot arms very clearly underneath, which is not the best, but that's really the only part of this that I don't really like. I think the legs all work really well. I think the tail looks good. He's got a lot of the cheetah patterning, you know, kind of printed all over, which I think looks good. He's got that huge maximal symbol there on his forehead. We'll take a close look here at the cheetah head. I think that looks really nice. You can open the mouth like that, which I think looks really cool. I'm not really sure why they did the jaw in a different color. I understand having a little bit of that darker yellow around, but I feel like for the jaw I would have done that in the same color. But other than that, pretty cool. Nice detailing and paint throughout. Articulation-wise, you have a ball joint here. Kind of a limited ball joint, but you can also kind of use that hinge still a little bit if you want. And then you have a hinge here, as you can see. And then for the back legs, they're kind of clicked in place, but you can still move it on this pin right here a little bit. And then you can move, I mean, really these aren't supposed to come out, but you can kind of move the leg down here. So not a ton of articulation, but there is some. And just overall, I think it's a pretty good looking cheetah mode. And I do think it's an improvement over the Kingdom version. Yeah, I like it quite a bit. Alright, so next up we have Nightbird, and I think she looks pretty great. I love the color scheme. She does have a little bit of kibble here on kind of the thighs and the back of the thighs, and then just on her back in general. So it takes away a little bit, and it makes her, you know, not 100%. Some of that kibble is getting in the way of articulation, so a little bit of a bummer there. But for the most part, I think she looks really cool. I love the head sculpt. I think that looks absolutely fantastic. Those yellow eyes just really pop against the darker colors. Nice metallic purple there on the forehead and kind of the back of the head here. Almost kind of looks like that's a visor that you kind of flip down, but not the case. She's got kind of like a knight helmet going on here with these pieces on the side as well. Really nice paint applications here on the front of the chest and what will become the car. You have yellow paint there for the headlights. And then very tiny, almost pretty much indistinguishable, you have the Terracon symbol there. It's really small. I don't know why they didn't just kind of put it here on the chest. Not a big deal, but it's so tiny you can barely even notice it. Really nice metallic purple down here on the knees. The legs are a little thin. I don't love exactly the way the legs go, but it's kind of necessary for transformation. All in all, I think she looks pretty cool. Articulation, head is on kind of a limited ball joint, so you get a little bit of front and back, and then you can kind of turn side to side. You can tilt a little bit side to side as well. You have a ball joint here in the shoulder, so some nice movement out to the side and front to back there. You have a bicep swivel directly above the elbow, 90 degrees in the elbow there. And I think the forearm, yeah, the hand and the forearm is a solid piece, so nothing in the wrist. You do have a waist swivel down here, but again, that kibble gets in the way a little bit. You have kind of a hinge and pin here at the hip, so not a ball joint. You really can't get any out to the side movement again because of that kibble, but you can kick from pretty far forward. You have a thigh swivel here. You do have a knee, pretty much 90 degrees there, and then I guess you technically have ankle tilt because of this hinge here for the transformation, but you absolutely could use that for ankle tilt. This piece just kind of goes up and down for the transformation. That's just kind of her toe there. And then you have some nice purple here on the wheels. So, again, not the best, but not the worst. Overall, I think she looks pretty cool. Just a couple things that make her like not 100% for me. She does come with 2 accessories. She has this small sword, which has some nice metallic purple on it. And go ahead and just pop that into her hand. And then she's got these kind of 2 claw pieces that separate for the vehicle mode. But for the robot mode, we're just going to peg them together like so. And then we can peg them into one of these. Now, I guess if you want, technically, she could hold it as well. But I think it's more meant to go on the forearm here as just kind of like a claw weapon. So, kind of cool there. Overall, like I said, I really do like her. I think the color scheme is absolutely fantastic. Just a couple little things like the legs being a little too thin and all of the kibble That just kind of takes away a little bit from the robot mode. But overall, I still think it is pretty successful and looks pretty great. Alright, so we'll get into the transformation. It can be a little tricky just because there's some clearance issues. But we'll start by kind of tilting the head back ever so slightly. And then we're going to go ahead and unhook that like I was talking about earlier. And bring this... Actually, maybe I have to... There we go, tilt it back even more. So this will come up, and then you can kind of bring the head a little forward, and you can actually push this past where you'd think you would be able to, because you have to be able to swivel this panel back. And then I'll move this out of the way, and this has to kind of come up, and there's a little clearance thing here, and then that will kind of sit flush, as you can see, and that has some nice metallic purple stripes there. So you want to make sure that that kind of passes the little tab there, because it rests on top of it. So at this point, we're going to come back in here, and we're going to straighten out the arms, and then we are going to pop them in like so. But you don't really have to do anything with the arms yet. They're going to kind of be in the way, so we kind of want to like use those elbow joints to kind of just rotate them up. I forgot to mention that on these little panels here, the kind of like, you know, samurai type panels she has, again, we have some nice metallic purple, and they are on a hinge, so if you want to put them out a little bit to the side, you can, but you want to make sure that they're all the way against the arm when we're going into the transformation here. So next we're going to take the legs, and you want to grab these kibble pieces and pull them straight away from the body. Now the directions are a little goofy because they actually show you pushing it in, but I mean you would assume you're going to push them in for the robot mode, and we need to pull them out for clearance during the transformation. So the directions were a little weird there, but you want to pull these out to the side, and then you want to swivel at the thigh there 180 degrees, and then we're going to kind of bring this up and then fold this in like this and push this against. So rotate this, fold this, push this up, and then kind of bring that there. So this is the kind of tricky part, and the directions are very confusing. And the other thing is it has these pegs on the side, and you would think that there's somewhere that they're supposed to peg in on this ridiculously large like crotch piece that I don't really understand why it needs to be this big, but it doesn't appear that they peg in anywhere unless I'm doing something incorrectly. But you kind of have to like bring this up and fold this in and kind of keep rotating this around, and then you also have to make sure that you clear this piece, because you kind of have to move this around as you rotate this, and it's kind of weird. But eventually you need to get this in line with this, but also condense this in. Bring this around and kind of collapse this. And I think when you're done, you want these pieces up like this. So that kind of goes there. Actually, maybe you don't. For some reason, I thought you bent these more, but maybe you don't, because I'm seeing that this is in line here with this now. No, I think this has to be... I'm confusing myself now, but we have to bring these up and fold this and rotate this around and bring this around. And like I said, these pieces start to hit into, just going to make sure these are both out as far as we can get them. You start hitting into these back pieces here and things like this, and it's just a little not easy to do. Yeah, this has to be like this. This has to come up. Does this connect onto here? I don't think this does. I think this just kind of fills in this space. So this has to come up, and see that sits flush like that, and this one will come up and do the same, and then you can kind of bring this down and fill in this space, and this should all connect like that and like that, and then this piece has to come down and cover this. So I still don't think I have these 100% tucked in as much as they're supposed to, because this needs to come up and cover this, and you kind of have to straighten this out. See, it almost seems like there should be somewhere that this connects in, And I'm not seeing anything like that. But this has to come down, and there is clips. You can see that there's tabs there that go into these sections here. And I just don't have this as clean as it needs to be. Alright, I'm going to have to mess with this and then I'll come back. Okay, I see what the issue is. Those pegs that I was talking about where I said I thought they would peg into somewhere on here, they actually fit into these little spots right there, if you can see what I'm talking about. And I know it's kind of difficult, but on the crotch plate, if we can move this, I guess it's actually more of the back of the abdomen, but there are those two little spots, and so this has to come up and sit in there, and it's a little difficult, but you can see how now that tab, and I know I'm not, it's hard to get light in there at this point, but if you can see what I'm talking about, that has to fit in there. So if we can bring this up and fit that in there, then this will rest where it needs to rest. There we go. Those are both in there. So now when we come out of there, this will all fit how it's supposed to. This can then come up, and you can see that there are these kind of like little tabs here when we bring this up, and then that will allow this to close, and then this can fold over the back. There we go. So it's a little difficult, and that's what I was saying. It's just a lot of clearance issues because it all compacts so tight back here that it can be difficult. But once you get everything where it's supposed to be and those notches are in, then everything else kind of falls into place. But it can be a little difficult. So now we're just going to take the arms and drop them back down. And you want to make sure that these tabs on the side of the forearm are facing out, so that when we drop this down, they will tab into these spots on the side of the door. So we can bring this in and close this up. And that should peg into the arms. And they can move around a lot, the arms, so you kind of have to hold some things in place while you bring these in. But then we are all set. So it's a little finicky, but the car mode you're left with looks great, in my opinion. I think this looks absolutely fantastic. Again, you have that nice metallic purple there. You also have it here on the rear view mirrors and on the wheels as well. It rolls very well, and just overall, I like the color scheme. They painted all the windows black, which I appreciate, so that it's uniform. And the fun thing is, you're going to take these claw pieces and you're going to split them in half. And then you can see how they have kind of a rounded edge. So there's only one way to plug them in back here. But this is going to pop in here, and this is going to pop in here. And then you're actually going to use the sword as a spoiler. You can see that it has these two holes, and they're going to peg in right there and there. So we're just going to take this and peg that on like that. And now the car has a spoiler. So the transformation is a little difficult, and the more you do it, the more familiar you get with it. It does get easier, but it's just that this area compacts up so tight that everything has to be kind of just perfect to get everything to fit. But the vehicle you're left with, I think, looks absolutely fantastic, and I really like the look of that quite a bit. Last but certainly not least, we have Wheeljack, and I know a lot of people are upset with this design because we saw Wheeljack for 5 seconds in the beginning of Bumblebee on Cybertron, and now he's got a completely different, not typical G1 Wheeljack head sculpt, and I understand that, but it's such a fun design. I wish they would have just called this character something else, because I love everything about how he looks. I understand that people are like, well, it's not Wheeljack. He doesn't need to be Wheeljack. Just call him Towline or something. It doesn't matter. Those giant goggles are absolutely fantastic. I love that design. Autobot symbol on both the head and the chest, I think, looks fantastic. You have a lot of nice, like, metallic silver and blue here for the headlights and everything. Very, very cool. For the most part, though, he does not have as many paint applications as the rest, in my opinion. You got a little bit of white here for the kneecaps, got a little bit of silver here for the back bumper. Otherwise, he's mostly just this kind of rust copper color. I mean, it works for him. I'm fine with it. And we'll see some more, he's got the side of the van painted, obviously, in the vehicle mode. And we'll see that more in a little bit. But I love him, honestly. I just think he's a lot of fun. He's a cool little compact guy. Doesn't really have a ton of kibble, honestly. I feel like the backpack here situates very nicely. Yes, it's all done in translucent blue plastic and then painted, so we'll see how that holds up over time. But for now, everything is pretty cool, and I'm liking him quite a bit. Head is on a ball joint, so you can look up, a little bit down. Certainly turns side to side, no problem. I will say it's very tight on mine, and I believe he has light piping. Yeah, we got the plastic here, so that should come through the goggles, which would be absolutely fantastic. And let's see, we have any side to side? Not really any side to side tilt, but I understand people are like, it doesn't look like Wheeljack, but I love the design. I wish they had just called him somebody else, because it's such a fun head sculpt. I really, really like it a lot. Now, you have some kind of weird arms here, and it's because of how they transform, but you've got kind of a wiggle actually in the body, and then you've got a hinge right here, and then you've got a ball joint as well. So he's got all kinds of articulation in the shoulder with the butterfly joint and the ball joint here. Go pretty far out to the side. You can see the butterfly joint wiggling in and out, and then you got some front to back movement as well. You have a bicep swivel there right above the elbow. 90 degrees in the elbow. The wrist and the forearm are a solid piece, and for whatever reason, they only painted the top of the fist, which I think is a really weird thing to do. I'm not really sure how that happened. I wish they had either left it all the same color as the forearm or painted the whole fist. This kind of half and half is just very, very strange to me. You do have a waist swivel here, and then you have a ball joint here in the hip. Now, you do have these wheels back here that can get in the way a little bit, but you can kick decently out to the side, very far forward. Can't really go back because that wheel hits into the torso there. We do have a thigh swivel as well. You can see it in here, but it's kind of hard to utilize it, honestly. It might just be because mine's very tight, but also because I think those wheels kind of get in the way. So you can't really get much use out of the thigh swivel, even though it is there. And then we do have a knee bend, which we're going to utilize, you can see, in the vehicle mode because it forms perfectly, but you still get 90 degrees there. And then you have these shin pieces, which I think lock in, but they come apart on mine. I might have this a little too far down. Yeah, that might be why. See, let me get the foot out of it. There's a little peg right there, which is supposed to notch in, but I don't know, on this one it doesn't stay as well. But it's not a big deal. They're not going anywhere. Just gravity will keep them in place. And then you've got a ball joint here in the ankle, so you got a lot of movement there. You got ankle tilt. Just all in all, I think it's a super fun design. I like it a lot. He comes with a kind of boring little blaster, but it works. Pop that into his hand. Yeah, just all in all, I like this guy a lot. I understand people don't think he looks like Wheeljack, but it's such a fun little design. I just think it's so fun. And I'm kind of bummed that the fun of this design is kind of being, caught up in this controversy and people aren't able to appreciate it. If they would have just called it something else, people could just, soak this guy in and just enjoy what a fun little goofball he is. And I just love him so much. All right, so getting into the transformation, the first thing we're going to do is kind of unhook this harness he's got. And I'll be honest, mine doesn't stay in super well. Basically, these panels lift up. I think this is supposed to go in, and then the panels are supposed to click on top to kind of keep it in place. And it's not really, necessary to keep them together. I just think it's, for the design. But, you just want to make sure that these panels keep that in place. So we're going to kind of lift these up a little bit so that we can unhook that and bring it down. Then we're going to push these all the way down so that they become flush with the front of the van. And then we have to kind of lift this up and get it over the head. Now, this is kind of difficult, in my opinion. You can kind of tilt the head a little forward, which helps, but it's a kind of a tough clear. But you can get it back. Now, at the same time, you have to grab a hold of the backpack and slide this all the way up. So this will slide up like that, and then that way when you bring this up, once you can clear that head, that will form the front of the van there like so. Now at this point, we're going to leave this down. Go back down there, sir. We're going to bring these in. So you have these joints here, which are going to come in, and they kind of naturally stop here, but you got to push past that. So if you look here at the head, there's kind of like an incline, like a 45-degree angle, and so they're going to push in, until they hit that. And that's kind of a natural stopping point for them. So that's nice. That's what you want to do. Because the first time I was trying to transform this, I would get to about here where it's just kind of straight, vertical. And I'm like, there's no way this is right because I can't get these shoulder pads in where they need to be. And we also need to flip the shoulder pads up so that they kind of tuck up like that. So bring this up and then push that past where you might think is the normal stopping point. And then bring this in, and that will kind of sit flush with the vehicle mode there. At this point, you want to take these panels and kind of bring them down and then also fold them in. And then there is a tab right here on the inside that will tab in to this little spot right here. I'll be honest, this is a lot more difficult than it seems, just because it's hard because of all the different articulation points to get that to go. Okay, that actually went pretty well that time. So, of course, it just wants to make me look foolish on camera. But I was having difficulty just with all the articulation points to get that to attach and really peg all the way in like it needs to. There we go. Okay, and then at this point, you can kind of bring the arms up. But for now, we'll just kind of leave them down. You can see that there is a hinge joint here. And then this is going to pop out all the way. So they're de-accordion that out. Then we're going to come to the legs. So how the legs work, we are going to flip these panels like so. Then we are going to bend them at the knee, the full 90, so that that kind of all forms together. You can see that taking shape. These are going to go straight down. And then these panels are going to lift up and kind of rotate around and swing to the back. So there's like a hinge and a ball joint. So the ball joint is so that this can move around. And then the hinge is at where that pin is right there. So you're going to bring this down and cover what were the like fake headlights on the legs with the actual tail lights. So you thought it was going to be the front of the vehicle. It's actually the back. Isn't that crazy? So we're going to bring the foot down, bring this around, and swivel this down. Now you kind of have to tuck the feet under this part so that it lines up. Actually, I guess I should peg these together first because that will be easier. So peg that all together. And then we're going to tuck this underneath, which can be a little difficult, but you can get it. Just clear this. There we go. Tuck that all in. Then we can bring this down. There we go. And then make sure that these are down all the way and pegged into each other. And then we can bring, you can see that there's big tabs right here, which are going to tab in underneath there. So just bring this up and tab that in like so to form the side panel of the van, and bring this up. Oh, I see. This is why it was giving me trouble before, because this panel flipped in. There we go. And then pop this in here like that. And then the last step is to just bring this in. You can see how there's kind of these tiny little bevels here on the forearm. That's just so that this can click in to them like so. And there we go. We have our old VW bus alt mode that they had to alter slightly so that they didn't have to pay for the actual design of the bus. But you can see it says TV Pablo here on the side. And now we have the back fender with the tail lights. So you have a little bit of paint there, a little bit of paint there. All of the translucent blue for the windows, since that is a translucent piece of plastic painted. And as a result, the white doesn't match perfectly because that's going to be difficult to do. But I think it's good enough. And then if you want, you can peg the gun into the top here. But I love this. I love this little bus. I think it's fantastic. It rolls well. It's such a fun little alt mode. I really like it quite a bit. All of the detail here on the front, which was the chest, is now here on the front of the bus, and it just looks fantastic in both modes. Really nicely painted. I love that Autobot symbol. And just all in all, you can see the little head underneath. I just think this is such a fun little vehicle mode, and I like it a lot. I think this is an absolutely fantastic 3-pack. I think Wheeljack is definitely my favorite. I just absolutely love this design, and I'm kind of bummed that a lot of people are so upset at it because it doesn't look exactly like G1 Wheeljack. I wish they had just named him something else so everyone could appreciate what a fun, goofy design this is. I love the color scheme. I love the alt mode. I love the robot mode. I think the transformation is fairly simple, and I just really love everything about this guy. He is probably my favorite of the three. Cheetor, surprisingly, is probably my second favorite. I really didn't have an interest in this figure at first because I really just thought it was the Kingdom one again, and I already have that mold like 3 or 4 times at this point. But I'm pretty sure that this is almost completely a new mold. If it's not completely a new mold, it borrows very little in terms of the engineering, and it transforms better than the other one. It looks better in both robot mode and cheetah mode than the Kingdom release. I love the stylized head sculpt. All the paint applications look great. I love the 2 accessories, both stored in the cheetah mode, which is a really cool thing. So just all in all, there's not really too much to complain about this one either. I think this is a lot of fun. Nightbird is probably my least favorite, and it's only because the difficulty in transforming the car mode. It probably is just my own, shortcomings, and the more I do it, I'm sure I'll get more and more familiar with it. But just when you're compacting up the legs for the back of the car, there's a couple clearance issues, and there's a lot of moving things around and kibbly bits, and so it just takes it away a little bit. It's still a fantastic figure, and I still really, really like it. It just loses a few points with me because of the kibbly bits in robot mode and the little bit of difficulty compacting those legs in the vehicle mode. But those are minor things. I mean, like I said, once you do it a couple times, I'm sure it'll get easier. And the kibbly bits don't really get in the way all that much. They do limit articulation slightly, but it's not that big of a deal. The color scheme on Nightbird is fantastic. I absolutely love that. I like the accessories. I like the way the accessories become the spoiler in the vehicle mode. I think that's really cool as well. I like the kind of like samurai armor panel. She's obviously got like a ninja motif going on. So I like a lot about it. Like I said, it's a pretty excellent figure. It just loses a few small points with me because of the kibbly bits and the transformation being somewhat difficult. But honestly, all 3 of these are pretty great. I definitely recommend picking them up. Whether you get the 3-pack that's exclusive to Target or you wait for their individual single releases, either way, grab these. They're a ton of fun, and I really, really like them a lot. I'm really excited for the main line Deluxes and Voyagers we're going to have. Honestly, all the toys so far for Rise of the Beast have been pretty great, and I'm really excited to check out this movie. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.